Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report News Hour for the 11th day of the ninth month. Sorry about that. 11th day of the ninth month by the heavenly calendar in the 16th year of Changi. Tim Miller sitting in for the second king of Changi, Kyung Jin-lun. Today is also Halloween, or tonight, I guess. I was disappointed to see President Trump and the First Lady Melania Trump doing something that the media referred to as, well, the White House referred to as celebrating Halloween. What does that even mean? What are you celebrating? What does it mean? I understand celebrating Christmas. I understand celebrating the 4th of July. I mean, those are actually things that mean something, right? I mean, Christmas, not the actual birthday of Jesus, but still we're still celebrating his birth, although it's not on the day of his birth. That's okay. Uh, so there we're actually celebrating New Year's. I understand celebrating New Year's. Celebrating Thanksgiving. I understand celebrating Thanksgiving, fall harvest and the Pilgrims and the Indians and all that. But what does it mean to celebrate Halloween? At best, it has no meaning, right? And at worst, it means you're celebrating hopefully the evil spirits who are coming down on the night before All Saints Day. So, and then people say Happy Halloween. what, what are we happy about, right? I understand Happy New Year, but New Year is always a happy time because you're making a new beginning. The British say Happy Christmas, although in America we say Merry Christmas. So either way, that makes sense. But what is this about Happy Halloween? What are we happy about? It's a meaningless holiday at best, right? And it's more practically, it's something to give the retail folks something to hang on to between Labor Day and Thanksgiving. I mean, they have to have something in October. And after all, the what is it? Consumer spending makes up what 70-80% of the GDP. So that's a justification for Halloween. We gotta sell all that candy and create new business for dentists and all that stuff. But anyway. This is my Halloween rant. All right. Anyway, so today is Halloween. Okay. When my wife and I were in the U.S., we're not now in the U.S., but when we were, we would keep our porch light off, and that was a signal to all those sort of nomadic folks wandering around that we were not involving ourselves in this particular whatever. I don't even know what to call it. Is it an event? Anyway. All right. Enough of that for this year. At least the good news is that in about 20 some hours or we will no longer have to worry about Halloween for another year. Okay. All right. Let's I'm sure you're waiting for the weather. Even if you're not, here it goes. 42 degrees at the Chongpyeong, Tennessee. Clear skies, cool with partial sunshine today. Dry evening anyway. For something, 53 degrees for a low tonight. Tonight, clear and partly cloudy. There can be frost in the normally colder spots, low of 36 tonight. Father's hometown, where I assure you they do not celebrate or mark or do anything. I've never heard of Halloween. Father's hometown of Cheongju in North Pyongan province. In fact, they actually, you could even get in trouble for wearing jeans in North Korea because that's a sign of Western influence. And so I'm quite certain that there are no jack-o'-lanterns, there are no witches. All right. There's, of course, just one big evil Satan at the head of that organization. But anyway, no Halloween. Every day's a Halloween, I suppose. I don't know. Just no trick or treat. Anyway, tonight, or getting down to right now 46 degrees there, getting down to 37 tonight, mainly clear and cooler. Tomorrow, partly sunny with a couple of showers in the afternoon, high of 58. So this may be the only time of year when God looks favorably on North Korea. What do you think, right? No Halloween there. China, I don't know about China. I'll bet they do have, you know, they're trying to increase domestic spending. So I'll bet they do have Halloween in China. Let me check. 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 Do they celebrate Halloween in China? Okay. Yes, Halloween is celebrated in China, particularly in major cities. Many bars and clubs host themed parties with decorations, costume contests, and special drinks. While it is not a traditional holiday, yeah, yeah. Hey, listen, Confucius never thought of this one. Some people, especially in international schools, participate in Halloween activities. The celebration often blends Western influences with local costumes. All right. Okay, so that's China. Let's just to make sure, let's check North Korea. Does not celebrate Halloween. See there? Yeah, this is the one day of the year when North Korea is in the able position. North Korea does not celebrate Halloween while the country has its own share of ghosts and spooky creatures. Halloween as a celebration is not recognized. Instead, these elements are used to instill fear in the youth. Okay. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Probably the only country, I think. What about Cuba? What about Cuba? What about Cuba? Uh, let's check Cuba. Yes, okay, it does. All right. What about where else? Russia, of course. Well, Russia. Russia. Oh, in Russia, Halloween is not a traditional holiday, but it has gained some popularity in recent years. 61% of Russians do not plan to celebrate Halloween in 2025, while others may participate in themed parties or decorations. Okay. All right. So North Korea. North Korea is the only one that does not celebrate Halloween. Let's all move to North Korea. Okay. Where was I? Okay. Next, Cheonryung Palace. Cheonryung Palace. Currently mostly cloudy at 48. No, not a prayer. Morning shower in the area. What am I thinking? Otherwise windy with some sun. Then clouds, gusty winds can blow around unsecured decorations. High of 54 degrees. So yeah, take them down, take them down, take them down while you still have a chance before the wind blows them away. Partly cloudy, windy night, low of 42. And in Texas, oh my goodness, yes. Clear skies at 39, high of 73 today, pleasant, plenty of sun, pleasant this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy and cool, a low of 48. And at the Cheonryung Palace in South Korea, 51 and clear right now, getting down to 47 tonight, partly cloudy. Tomorrow, sunshine and a few clouds, high of 68. And at the Gunma Palaces in Japan, where they celebrate everything Western, 56 in rain right now, and raining for at least 60 minutes. Heavy at times, the rain's going to be heavy at times, then partly cloudy late, getting down to 54. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and pleasant, high of 74. And in Guangzhou, China, currently 76 and getting out to 69 tonight, becoming partly cloudy. Tomorrow, less humid, sun and areas of high clouds in the morning. Then mainly cloudy in the afternoon, high of 78. I know some people say, Tim, why don't you just let the kids have fun? But spirit world is real, all right? Spirit world is real, and it's nothing to be fooled around with. And unfortunately, people don't understand that. and the kids are having fun. The evil spirits are having fun, creating correlative bases, the bases with the children and with the adults, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Okay, it's not a good thing, and I'm sure that as society grows more righteous, Halloween will lose its popularity. The retailers will have to find something else. What can they find in October? Well, yeah, I mean, Hungnam Liberation Day. All right, let's do that instead of Halloween. Okay. Yes. 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 Hungnam Liberation Day with the blessings going on and the what is it? The Radharani Freedom Festival taking place in more and more countries around the world. There you go. Yeah, that's a good place. If the retailers need something, that's the place to do it. Okay. None of this evil spirit junk. All right. So having said that, let's now not make any more mention of Halloween for the rest of the hour. And instead, let's go to Father's Word. And I'm in the book on true families again. And chapter 4 this time, section 2. Okay. All right. section 2 is titled, subtitled 사랑을 중심한 창조 본연의 삶. So the life of the original creation, life of the original creation, centering on love. Life of the original creation, centering on love. Father does not use the word ideal here. So normally he puts, creation ideal or ideal of creation, but well, actually, this is not Father. This is the editor that made this subtitle. All right, let's go here with Father's words. 인간 존재의 원인은 무엇이겠습니까? What is the cause of the existence of human beings? What is the cause of human existence? 인간 존재의 원인은 사랑에서 시작되었습니다. So the cause of human existence began in love. Wow, okay. 그렇다고 인간 존재의 목적은 어디에 있다고 생각하십니까? So in that case, 그렇다면, sorry, I misread that. 그렇다면 인간 존재의 목적은 어디에 있다고 생각하십니까? So then, in that case, where do you think the purpose of human existence lies? Where do you think it lies? 인간 존재의 목적은 사랑의 이상을 완성하는 것입니다. The purpose of human existence is to complete the ideal of love. Wow, yeah, go, Father, go. Preach, preach, preach. 인간이 사랑을 원인으로 존재하게 되었으니 사랑의 기대를 이루어서 확장시키고 연결하여 완성시키는 것이 목적이 되는 것입니다. So, because 인간이 사랑을 원인으로 존재하게 되었습니다. So, because human beings came to exist with love as the cause, they should establish the foundation of love, foundation or base or foundation, or let's say foundation of love, expand that, and then connect that and complete it. This is their purpose. Praise God. So yes, purpose is love. And of course, where do we learn how to love? Well, it's in the family. It's in the family. And that's why the salvation in Father's teaching is closely connected to the heterosexual two-parent families, heterosexual two-parent families with children. Right. That is where we learn how to love. We complete the 4 realms of Shimjong. Shimjong being what? The irrepressible, that's important, irrepressible impulse of the heart to invest love in an object partner so as to experience love and joy. It's irrepressible. That means that it is impossible not to love. For God, not to love would be to deny his own existence. It is impossible for him not to love. So even after Adam and Eve committed the fall and destroyed God's ideal and handed everything over, the entire creation over to Satan, Lucifer, still Father came and he clothed them in furs. He clothed them in furs because they had now been, they're outside of the Garden of Eden. They're no longer protected. So he clothed them in furs. So his love for them did not cease. But it's not a matter of, loving them more or less. It's not a matter of forgiveness even, because now, after the fall, there was no longer God's seed. God's seed no longer existed on the earth. And so he had to send a second Adam, not to destroy the first one, but to restore the first one. Right? Anyway, let's not get too far into that. We can get into that during our Wednesday OSTP materials. All right, let's see what's going on today. Well, so yesterday, I think I spoke about, how food stamps are not going to be issued coming tomorrow, Saturday, but I was a little bit uninformed on that. It turns out that it's not a cliff. It's not because states manage the expenditure of these SNAP funds, the food stamp funds, and so it's not all at once. But as time goes on in November, if the government does not reopen, then there will be more and more people who will not be getting these funds. So we'll see how things develop, but it's not just something that there's going to be all these food riots tomorrow. Apparently, I was misinformed on that, so to make that correction. But what we do know, what has been sort of highlighted as a result of this situation is that there are 42 million Americans who are dependent on government subsidy for their groceries, right? And how did that happen, right? 42 million? The Washington Post, a headline says 1 in 8 Americans, food aid for 1 in 8 Americans is threatened in November. Okay. And so Washington Post, of course, is trying to use this headline to pressure the Republicans to cave into the Democrats and do what the Democrats demand in order to get the continuing resolution passed. But how did this happen that there are 1 in 8 Americans who are dependent on government aid? I think here again, we have the situation with the family. Family, of course, is not just a nuclear family, but also aunts and uncles, cousins, and so forth, grandparents, and so forth. And families should be able to help each other in these types of situations. But of course, what has happened is that the government actually discourages the formation of families. Do single mothers get priority in food? Let's see, government food or in government welfare, shall we say? But already, by the way, the WICs, well, they say do not receive priority, but I don't think that's true. Yeah. However, they can access various forms of government assistance, including cash aid. Yeah, you see, they do. First they say they don't, but then they get cash aid, food support, and housing programs. WIC, women is women and infant children. So already there you go, you see. Okay. Low-income parent for low-income provide essential financial relief for low-income single-parent households. So the headline is wrong. The financial relief for low-income single-parent households. So yeah, there is a priority for single mothers, even though the leftist AI tries to say that there isn't. Right. All right. So anyway, 42 million people, roughly 1 in 8 Americans, could see cuts or delays to food assistance as soon as Friday if the government shutdown continues. So they say as soon as, because that's the way of sort of fudging this. So it's not going to be all at once on Saturday. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, sometimes called food stamps, provides money for groceries to low-income Americans. The program distributes over $90 billion in benefits a year and accounts for roughly 9% of all grocery spending in the country, according to Agriculture Department estimates. So there's obviously something very wrong here, right? There's something very wrong in society when 1 in 8, so let's say if you want to, 12 and a half, well, let's say 12%, 12.5% would be 1 in 8, or let's say roughly 12% of all Americans have to rely on the government for their food aid, grocery aid. Now, there's been pointed out that there's considerable fraud going on, that people get their food stamps and then they sell this and these to others, and then use the money for for whatever, including drugs, not always drugs, I'm sure, but so in that case, you got to ask yourself, okay, then if they're selling it, did they need it in the first place? Who are the people who actually need grocery assistance? That would be something, right? So people who go to food banks, are they picking up food there and then going out and selling it on the black market? Or not very often, I think, not very often. So what if then instead of doing it this way, government supports the private food banks operated by churches and others? The interesting thing, the Newfoundland Church, the Sanctuary Church Newfoundland, used to be a Catholic church, and there used to be a food bank that was located in the rear section of the church. Today, it's a store. It's a place for we keep all sorts of stuff back there. And the church would get food from the county and hand out the food. Now, what if someone came along and donated food? What happened then? And I talked to someone who was actually involved in the operation of that food bank, and they said, "Oh, we were not allowed to hand out that food that people donated. We were not allowed to hand out that food that people donated." This is bureaucracy for you, right? So what would you do with the food then? Well, we'd put it on a side table, okay? And people, if they wanted it, they could pick up whatever they wanted. But we had nothing to do with that. It was put on a side table and people could take what they wanted, but we could not hand it out. I suppose there's a liability thing there. I suppose, have you checked the expiration dates? Have you checked to see whether someone has, I don't know, put some bad stuff in there or something like that? And people sometimes do that. Every Halloween we have situations where, oh no, I didn't mention Halloween again, didn't I? I'm sorry. But anyway, there are situations where people put razor blades in apples. There are truly evil people. Hey, they are celebrating Halloween. They're celebrating evil. They put razor blades in apples so that when the children bite into the apple, well, that happens. So anyway, it's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Anyway, let's hope that it gets less crazy as time goes on. So anyway, 42 million Americans, $90 billion in benefits a year, roughly 9% of all grocery spending in the country, according to the Agriculture Department estimates. And the federal government says it can't pay for the program in November due to the government shutdown. Federal judge, of course, is trying to intervene in this situation. We'll see what happens with that. I don't think it has done anything. It hasn't been able to do anything yet. And it's for nearly all of those who do have an income made less than 130% of the poverty level, about $2,900 a month for a family of 3 in 2025. So I think, is this 130% or is this the poverty level? It's not clear from this sentence. I think it's, what is it? Is that the poverty level? Anyway, we are likely to see people making some really, okay, they're going to start pulling the heartstrings. Okay. So anyway, but it highlights the fact that there's something wrong here. Something wrong when 42 million Americans are dependent on the government. But is that true? Is that true? Right. So if this were to be operated by the private sector, uh, probably there would be a lot less fraud, and also people who actually do need the aid would actually be able to get something. I sure hope that private charities step up, and I think people ought to donate to their local food banks, donate money. Probably that's the best thing to do, donate cash somehow. And I once heard of a rich man, who wanted to support his local food bank. So he went to the operator of the food bank and said, okay, well, tell me what you need. I want to donate, but I want to do it anonymously. I don't want anyone to know about my donation, because then if I'm on a list, then people will start asking me for money and stuff like that. So the operator told him, okay, this is what we need, and gave him a list of stuff. And then he went to Costco or someplace and bought all that stuff and put it in a U-Haul trailer or something, and I brought it to the food bank. But I'm sure, though, that the food bank probably could not hand out that stuff. They put it on a side table, I suppose, and let people take it. But anyway, that might be one way of doing it if you do not want your name to appear on a list of generous people. Okay, because then all sorts of people will start coming to you. All right, then. So enough of that. Let's go to. Okay, let's see. I wanted to go to one more thing before I go into what I really want to do. There's some elections going on this month. I just want to highlight those, just in case you're involved in any of them. These races could be a referendum for President Trump and his administration. So, aside from the actual who wins and who loses, there is a sort of a political interpretation of the races, and so it's important for people to participate, even if it's only for that reason. Okay. With less than a week to go until November 4th, elections are heating up nationwide. The contests are regarded as possible referendums on President Donald Trump and his administration. This is in the Epoch Times, by the way. Here are the races to watch. New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, a self-described Democrat socialist, but actually a communist, is all but guaranteed to win this race. Okay, we'll see. Yeah. New York is making its choice. They have the freedom to make that choice. And many Republicans think that this is going to be very, very good for Republicans in the long term. Mamdani has run a platform of city-run grocery stores, free buses, rent freezes for stabilized tenants, free childcare, minimum wage of $30 per hour by 2030, a tax on those making more than $1 million annually, and a Department of Community Safety. So, and the money's going to come from where? Oh, yes, tax on those making more than $1 million annually. But who's going to stay, right? I mean, who's foolish enough to stay in the city if they're making more than $1 million annually? He's also running on Trump-proofing New York City. This includes strengthening New York statutes as a sanctuary city for illegal immigrants. All right. So All right. So all the illegal immigrants will be going to New York City, and they'll be getting city-run grocery stores. And I guess that means that the city's gonna set the prices, I suppose. I don't know. What is that what it means? Or they're gonna make a profit. Free buses, right? Okay, free buses. Rent freezes, free childcare, minimum wage of $30 an hour by 2030. Okay, okay. And okay, let's skip now to the next one. Virginia governor. In the race for Virginia governor this year, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, a Republican, will face off against Representative Abigail Spanberger in a race that Democrats are currently favored to win. The state had trended towards Democrats in recent decades, voting for then Vice President Kamala Harris in 2024 election after backing Joe Biden in the 2020 election. Yeah, there was a time when actually when my wife and I were living there in the early 2000s, when the governor was Republican, and uh, pretty much everybody was Republican, right? The Attorney General, and but anyway, that certainly has changed, and I think both senators were Republican as well. But mostly it's changed because of the Washington suburbs, Arlington County, Fairfax County, and then going out to Loudoun County and all those other counties out there. And it's too bad, yeah. All right, so Spanberger is consistently led in the polls. All right, so maybe double-digit lead, maintaining an 8% advantage in the most recent polling. But still, if you're living in Virginia, still go ahead and vote. Go ahead and vote. And New Jersey governor, historically blue, but New Jersey came within 6 points of backing Trump over Harris in 2024. And let's see. So, as in Virginia, Democrats have a baked-in advantage in the blue-leaning state. However, polls show that Democrats are in a less favorable position in New Jersey. Okay. But the Democrats' lead has shrunk to 1%. Wow, so New Jersey may flip. That's great. Okay, Virginia Attorney General. And you can look at that. Pennsylvania Supreme Court. This is an important one. 3 Democrat members of the Commonwealth's High Court are up for re-election: Christine Donahue, Kevin Dougherty, and David Wecht. But instead of facing an opponent, voters will simply decide whether they should remain on the bench. The state's governor, Josh Shapiro, has called for them to be retained. As Pennsylvania is a swing state, the state Supreme Court could play a vital role in election-related matters. Okay, so Donahue has highlighted that the court has protected access to abortion. So I think if I were in Virginia, if I were still in Pennsylvania, I would go out and I would vote no on each of these. Okay. Proposition 50, voters across multiple states will also consider key ballot measures in California's Proposition 50 to temporarily override the state's independent congressional districting commission. Okay, Okay, that's all. That's all I got time for today. All right, so let's go actually to what I wanted to do, which is this one on Epic Times. Okay, I'm gonna a little pain here. Okay. All right, behind CCP's. So, we've had all sorts of rumors and stuff, and people making videos on YouTube without really giving much information on their sources. But here at the Epic Times, we actually have a responsible media outlet giving sources and everything, and giving us, I think, an analysis that we can actually put our teeth into. So let's take a look at this. So it says that weakened Xi Jinping. So Xi Jinping is weakened. And I think most analysts seem to agree recently that he's isolating himself. The 9 generals that were purged before the 4th plenum is an example of Xi Jinping isolating or making himself more isolated. that tends to happen with dictators, and then they basically sort of make things more and more difficult for themselves. Now, Kim Jong-un has his uh, younger sister, his little sister, Kim Yo-jong, who seems to be pretty savvy about how to run a dictatorship. And then he also has his daughter, Kim Jue, we think her name is, to sort of keep him grounded, I suppose. But Xi Jinping doesn't seem to have any of that. Xi Jinping has kept his title as China's supreme leader after a closed-door conclave among top party leadership in Beijing last week, but many signs suggest that he's no longer all-powerful in his role, analysts say, even as the regime tries to portray the opposite. The high-stakes meeting of more than 300 members from the regime's Central Committee came with an unusual share of intrigue, including a high-profile military purge, the sidelining of Xi's allies, unexplained absences, and a shift from the party's usual political priorities. While China's state-controlled narratives continue to project party unity, signs of discord coming out of the highly choreographed meeting reveal significant tensions beneath the surface, analysts and insiders say. And you got to remember that in communism, well, we had the quotation from Father today, right? That the cause of human existence lies in love. Not true with communism. The cause of human existence in communism lies in what? Struggle, right? Struggle is what brings advancement, development. Okay, I think that his days are numbered. And this is who's speaking here. Stephen Mosher, researcher and author of the book Bully of Asia: Why China's Dream is the New Threat to World Order. Okay, what does he say? I think that his days are numbered. He will either be put out to pasture or simply sidelined in one way or another. Okay, so that's his opinion. The fourth plenum kicked off on October 20th, following the ouster of 9 senior generals, including China's second highest ranked military official in one of the largest public military reshuffles in decades. All 9 were military leaders that Xi had personally elevated. Several had started off in the former 31st Group Army, a military unit in Fujian province bordering Taiwan, where Xi worked for 17 years in the early stages of his political career. So some people say that, so this is proof that Xi Jinping is no longer in charge. But other people say, well, look at Lin Piao. Do you know Lin Piao? He was Mao's protege and was actually expected to be Mao's successor until one day, he saw the writing on the wall and got into an airplane and tried to escape to Russia. But the plane he was in crashed in Mongolia. And then after that, he was purged posthumously. His photograph was erased from, I don't know if the communists invented Photoshop, but anyway, they were erasing his image from many photographs. So that's an example. Lin Piao was close to Mao Zedong until one day he wasn't. And so you cannot really say that, okay, these 9 people, they were all Xi allies. Well, how do you know that? Maybe they were allies on Monday, but what about Tuesday? Were they still allies on Tuesday? The unit became so closely associated with Xi that analysts sometimes refer to it as Xi's family army. Since taking control of the Chinese Communist Party in 2012, Xi has packed key military posts with veterans from the group while rooting out those he considered a threat through his far-reaching anti-corruption drive. It makes no sense for Xi Jinping himself, who has only the support of his faction, to begin removing members of that faction, Moshe said. Political affairs commentator Jason Ma likewise found the moves hard to justify. He pointed to the recent downfall of Xi protege Admiral Miao Hua, whose long tenure at the 31st Group Army crossed with Xi's 17 years in Fujian, a connection largely thought to have led to Miao's rapid advancement under Xi. No leader can exercise authority without people who answer their personal command, and Miao was just such an old subordinate to carry out Xi's orders in our military, Ma said during the Chinese language current affairs program on NTD, a sister outlet of the Epoch Times. Similar questions arose as the regime refilled the vacant Central Committee seats left by the ongoing political shakeup. In its elevation of 11 alternate members to full membership, committee members bypassed 7 alternates ranked next in line, another departure from party tradition. Those skipped over were mostly longtime associates of Xi. One prominent example is Fang Yongxiang, a Fujian native who spent decades in the 31st Group Army and until recently headed the Central Military Commission General Office, a critical role that functions as the eyes and ears for Xi. The turbulence in top party ranks spilled further into the open after a roll call of attendees. Nearly 1 in 6 officials failed to show up at the plenary, a record unsurpassed for about half a century. After accounting for 1 death and 14 expulsions, there were still 26 members and 16 non-voting members missing from the session with no explanation, leading to questions about their political fate. What's unfolding is the hollowing out of Xi's power, according to Ma. In the intense political struggle, he said, Xi's trusted aides are on the losing end, and he is no longer in a position to intervene. So this is the guy that is supposed to, many people think, is sort of the rising star there, General Zhang Yuxia. Rise of a general. And if Xi's authority is weakening, riding the wave is General Zhang Yuxia, the first ranked vice chairman of the Central Military Commission and once a longtime ally of Xi. Xi and Zhang's fathers fought together during the Chinese Civil War, and the sons have known each other since childhood. But insiders say Xi and Zhang have diverged on significant policy issues in recent years, particularly on the handling of Taiwan. Reclaiming Taiwan has been a long-standing goal for the Chinese regime, and Xi, in a televised New Year's speech on January 1, called reunification a historical trend that no one can stop. Insiders close to senior officials in the Chinese military say Zhang holds a different view. They told the Epoch Times that in multiple internal meetings, Zhang has objected to mounting a Taiwan invasion, warning party officials that such a move could risk involvement by the U.S. military and its allies, pulling China into a costly war that the regime can hardly afford and throwing the country into chaos. Xi deems Zhang's opposition as undermining military morale, according to one of the 3 sources who spoke to the Epoch Times on condition of anonymity. Xi ordered a probe in 2023 into the Rocket Force and Equipment Development Department, which is led by Zhang, one source said. Zhang struck back through a personnel shakeup and by investigating Xi loyalists such as Miao and General He Weidong, who at the time was second-ranked vice chair of the Central Military Commission. As one of the 9 to fall from grace, he once played a key role in planning live-fire drills around Taiwan after the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited the island in August 2022, according to a Pentagon assessment. He's replacement, Jiang Shengmin, was selected as a compromise, one insider said. As the top military anti-graft enforcer, Jiang Shengmin has risen through the ranks with Zhang Youxua's mentorship. One of these sources said, describing the former as a centrist and the safest choice to appease both sides of the ongoing political fight. Indicators of Zhang Youxia's growing influence appeared during the regime's September military parade. On the platform overlooking Tiananmen Square, Zhang Youxia appeared alongside retired party elders who, by party hierarchy, are above his station. Given the regime's strict protocols down to every minutiae for such political occasions, the sighting implied Zhang Youxia's political standing had been elevated, several analysts noted. A further departure from the norm was the choice for the parade's master of ceremonies, traditionally a task for the Central Theater commander, a general. The role this year fell to junior-ranking Han Xiangyan, a close aide to Zhang Youxia. One of the military sources said the deepening political cleansing has eliminated much of the Xi clique and strengthened Zhang Youxia's military footing, but Xi still holds the upper hand in key state organs such as the political and propaganda apparatus. The discord was recognized by the United States on October 9th after Chinese authorities widened export controls to require licenses for products containing as little as 0.1% of Chinese-sourced rare earths. On October 12th, after earlier threatening to call off an upcoming meeting with Xi, President Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social, "Don't worry about China. It will all be fine." He said that Xi just had a bad moment. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent later explained that Trump believes that China's action on rare earths might be a signal of dissent in the ranks, a move likely from Chinese hardliners who are always trying to undermine the relationship. Analyst Sheng Mingxi said the order may well have come from the Chinese leader. It's about a power struggle, a political calculation, Shen, the researcher at the Taipei-based Institute for National Defense and Security Research, told the Epoch Times. To maintain power, he said, Xi is trying to create issues for his rivals and show who's in charge. It's part of a political tug of war, with the hardliners such as Xi stoking tensions, while the dovish want to smooth things over, Shen said. Ye Yao Yuan, chair of the International Studies and Political Science at the University of St. Thomas, echoed his view. The Chinese Commerce Ministry, which released the new rare earth export controls, is usually more dovish than agencies such as the Ministry of State Security, a formidable intelligence agency with Xi's direct oversight. Under the security agency's new leader, Chen Yixin, a longtime Xi confidant who stepped into the role in 2022, the agency has been dramatically expanding its mandate into social and economic spheres to enforce party loyalty. But no matter whose voice the measure represents, the party officially speaks with one voice and will not acknowledge any split, Ye told the Epoch Times. Following the fourth plenum, Chinese state media touted the country's economic progress, with reporters praising the meeting's official communique as opening a new chapter of the China miracle. But a close reading reveals a starker picture, analysts say. The communique, normally centered around ideology and governance, instead prioritized self-resilience and national security. Laying out the economic and social targets for the next 5 years, the party document acknowledged profound and complex changes and rising uncertainty. The word struggle, from the communist theory of class struggle between oppressors and the oppressed, appeared 4 times, which, together with frequent mentions of security, struck analysts as showing just the opposite. Top on the list of goals is to achieve technological self-sufficiency, with authorities calling for original innovation and core technology breakthroughs. Alongside it were emphases on a more robust domestic demand and a stronger real economy built on greater manufacturing strength. Hence, celebrate Halloween. Sorry. Sun Guoshang, director of the Institute of Asia-Pacific Studies at Taiwan's Nanhua University, said the language shows that the regime is making a structural shift. Economic and technological security is the foundation for national security. By reducing imports and reliance on foreign technology, the regime is shielding itself from the West's high-tech export controls and sanctions, he said. China is readying itself for a long-term standoff with the United States, Sun told the Epoch Times. Tributes to Xi's leadership have continued to flow from Chinese state media, and as is customary, officials have since held local study sessions to share with local officials the spirit of the plenary meeting and a show of loyalty to the party and Xi. The claims of unity might be a cover, according to China analyst and Epoch Times columnist Wang He. Behind closed doors, they stab each other, but in public, they still clink glasses, he said. For some in China, at least one thing is certain about communist officials. They are grasshoppers tied to the same string, an activist told the Epoch Times, using the alias Wang Hua to protect his safety. The phrase is a Chinese idiom meaning they are in the same boat. Okay, so that, okay. So what this tells us, though, is probably something that we already knew, which is that there's struggle within the Communist Party, and there's always struggle. The Communist Party is never harmonious, is never united, because you can only have unity. Well, according to Father, you can only have unity in love or a common purpose. But everyone is out for power. Everyone is out for power. And this new general who's coming up, you know, he Is he actually trying to overthrow Xi, or is he simply trying to secure his own position so that he cannot be purged by Xi? In other words, is he just trying to tread water, maintain his position? Does he want to start dealing with Donald Trump? Probably not. Probably not. I think that's a pretty thankless job if you're the head of the Chinese Communist Party. I don't think he's going to overthrow our. What am I saying? What does my opinion count? But it would seem that anybody who's sort of up and coming within the Chinese Communist Party would say, "Hey, next 3 years, you can have it, brother. You can have it. You can deal with Trump, and I'll wait for after Trump has gone before I try to overthrow you." Anyway, that would be my strategy. But of course, nobody ever listens to me. Okay. But it is encouraging, I suppose, that there is apparently dissent within the Communist Party about a military invasion of Taiwan. And but also we have the opinion that the Communist Party likes to have this kind of analysis because it gives people hope that reform is possible, that there's another guy waiting in the wings who's better than Xi. So the Communist Party likes to have these kinds of rumors going around. So it may be that as well, but we don't know. We don't know. Anyway. What we do know is that the Communist Party will not allow for any challenges to its authority. That we do know for sure. And on that point, I'm sure they are united, so they will continue to persecute the Uyghurs. They will continue to persecute the Christians. They will continue to persecute the Falun Gong. They will continue to persecute blessed central families of the sanctuary or who follow Father, who believe in Father. They will continue to persecute all those people. And we have it on good authority that there are at least four blessed central families who are or members of blessed central families who are in prison right now in China. Okay. All right, so that is that. Now, let's go to this story on regarding the analysis of the recent Xi-Trump meeting. And here's the way that I could get rid of this, right? Goldman Sachs CEO calls decades of U.S.-China trade policy a mistake and sees progress in the Trump-Xi talks. And this is written after those talks. Oops, I'm not sharing it with you yet. Am I? Am I sharing it with you? No, I don't know. Maybe I am. I guess I am, right? Okay. Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon said he is optimistic about the recent talks between President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, while warning that the United States needs to rethink decades of trade policy he believes were a mistake. So a mistake was allowing China into the World Trade Organization. That was the mistake. These are the two, and also giving them most favored nation status. These are the two largest economies in the world, and it is very important that we get to a more constructive place than we've been over the course of the last couple of months. Solomon said to Fox Business on a Thursday edition. Solomon said that while he doesn't expect a significant decoupling of the two economies, the talks could improve the trade system between the two superpowers. We have to have a system of rules and reciprocal agreements that are fair, that are level. We haven't had that. And also agreements that are actually kept. Right? And that's the problem that we have with China. This is 6 years ago. Well, look how younger they both are at that time. President Donald Trump sat down with Xi Jinping for the first time in 6 years with hopes talks would benefit ongoing trade negotiations between the two leaders. Trump said Thursday he will cut tariffs on Chinese imports following a highly anticipated meeting, citing new understandings on fentanyl enforcement, farm trade, and pause on rare earth export limits. Okay, and so forth and so on. And then starting November 1st or sooner, depending on any further actions or changes taken by China, the United States of America will impose a tariff of 100% on China. Okay, well, this is previous, right? It's previous. Okay. Solomon criticized the past 5 decades of U.S. policy with China, 5 decades. So going back to the 1970s. So that would be the beginning of Deng Xiaoping's era. Mao died in 76, and he was buried in September of 76, I remember. And so he's criticizing everything since then. Yeah. 5 decades of U.S. trade policy with China, calling the approach flawed and urging the current administration to focus on correcting it. The policy of the last 50 years, let's just participate and it'll all be fine, that's been a mistake. What the administration is doing to try to get clarity on a bunch of these things, I think is important, but ultimately we have to get to a place where the economies can, around a number of things, interact appropriately. Okay. And after the talk, Trump said that he and she had an amazing meeting, and both sides reached an outstanding group of decisions on key economic and security issues. Among them, he says she agreed to begin immediate purchases of U.S. soybeans and other farm goods, and that China would work very hard to block fentanyl from entering the United States. Work very hard. Okay, now how do I unshare? Am I sharing? If I am sharing, how do I unshare? Oh boy, am I sharing? I don't even know. Okay. Oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, was I not sharing there? Oh, I guess I wasn't sharing. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. All right. So, yeah, well, I don't want to share anymore now. All right, but one person pointed out that this meeting was scheduled the day after the Federal Reserve was meeting, and he says that's probably on purpose. And he says that President Trump was thinking that if the Federal Reserve made a decision that would cause the stock market to tank, then he would come out the next day saying, "Oh, I had a great, fantastic meeting with Xi Jinping. And I'm not going to tell you any details, right? But it was a fantastic meeting," which is actually what he did to sort of bring the stock market out of its crash. But of course, the stock market did not crash. So, anyways, I was trying to figure out how to work this thing because okay. Am I sharing now? If I'm sharing, I'd like to unshare. Okay. Well, I don't know what's going on. All right, so that's where we are. Okay, praise God, and remember that this weekend, most of the U.S. is going off of summertime and going on to wintertime. And so, if you are in the U.S., you will not notice any difference. Your computer and everything will make the change automatically. But if you are watching this program from, outside the U.S., then you may have to adjust your viewing time by 1 hour, one way or the other. So just to let you know that. All right, that's enough for today. God bless, Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly. Don't do Halloween.